they go hand in hand. The best example could be the developmentally displaced people, wherein huge projects such as the Narmada Dam in India, which actually forget the human costs involved in the construction of these dams, and because of this, most of the poor people who do not have the resources to voice their concerns are either silenced or are try to be bought in the situation by buying them, by trying to say that lure them into different economic incentives so that they don't voice their concerns. So actually exploitation chances are much higher when they're poor.
Yeah, I would say so. It depends on how you define human rights abuses, I guess. To take a rights-based approach to development, the right to access basic social services and so on is abused. In many cases, the places where the things that we consume in Western society are grown involve massive plantations on which a lot of people are paid very minimum wages and that are often subject to really poor working conditions, and that's true for a lot of banana plantations, coffee plantations, etc.
Yes, I think it has a really tight relation. In the case of Indonesia, well, we might see the cheap labor issues and the child labor issues. The child labor, they all came from the very poor family, and when my department, we are trying to tackle this thing down. I mean, we had a case that when we find this whole case of the child labor, and then we try to get them and release them from the job, and when we take them back to their family, and they said, well, what should we do if they didn't do the job? Then will you pay for our lives?
The most disadvantaged people are those that are already disadvantaged. I mean, predominantly those that come from low socioeconomic areas, those that are uneducated, immigrants that are non-English speaking immigrants. Yeah, the industries in which they work in are generally industries in which people are exploited. Your hospitality and your manufacturing industries, to a lesser degree your construction. I can't go into real detail, but I have heard it mentioned on numerous occasions that there are a number of ILO conventions that are deemed to be human rights. One, for example, being the right of workers to act collectively and be organised, that are being breached or impinged on by the Work Choices legislation. Work Choices puts heavy restrictions on trade unions. And further to that, there's a piece of legislation called the Construction Industry Improvement Act, which is a piece of legislation designed specifically for the construction industry, which goes even further than Work Choices in curtailing unions' power and ability to work collectively with their members. In effect, basically making them ineffective. So to answer the question, definitely, workers' rights are human rights, and they are being impinged currently by Work Choices legislation.
One of the things that I was really surprised to find that I was unaware of until quite recently was the amount of, well, effectively human rights abuses that occur within Australia in systems of home working, whereby companies employ people outside of factories for piece rates, so they get paid per piece that they sew, and there are many tens of thousands of people working in their garage or within their homes, often very economically vulnerable people who really need this as a source of income, but whose rights are being totally disrespected even within this country, and that's particularly rife within school uniforms production.